Hey, Craig, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well. Thank you very much. I appreciate you asking. It's really been a lot more in my sinuses and all, but been feeling much better.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking.
So Craig, can you hear me? This is Mark.
Yes, sir.
So yesterday I walk into my office and I'm in the bank first tower and they're replacing the windows in our building, as you know. And I'm in a temporary office today because they're putting in the new windows in my office. But I walk into the office and literally there's a guy standing outside and a guy standing inside, no glass. You're just looking out straight outdoors at the 16th floor. It was incredible.
Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you for joining us for the City of Oklahoma City's video conference city council meeting. We have a few quick announcements. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 30 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued to later today, September 15th at 1:00 p.m. via video conference, unless we state otherwise. The agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item, public hearing, or to speak under citizens to be heard must call 405-297-2391 or text 405-219-7927 or email cityclerk@okc.gov to be allowed to speak. When recognized to speak, press *6 to unmute your device. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. We're going to start this morning with an invocation from Pastor Robbie Robertson of Grace Place Baptist Church. Pastor Robertson, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and you are free to proceed when you are ready.
All right, let's pray. Father, I thank you today for such a beautiful day in such a challenging time. It reminds us of your goodness, and I thank you for our mayor and for this city council, the importance of their work and how they represent us as citizens in this city that we all love. I pray today that you would grant them great grace. The writer of Hebrews said, we're come boldly to the throne of grace and ask for mercy and grace to help us in a time of need. I pray you'd give them that kind of enabling grace today. I pray too you'd give them wisdom, that all the knowledge you've given and training and so many other things, expertise and experience that you've given them, I pray that those would be laid at your feet, and as a result that they'd be able to take that knowledge and apply wisdom from heaven to it, and that because of that it'd be the best for our city and what it needs. Lord, I thank you for them. I thank you for the incredible, amazing worth that they have, so much so that the Lord Jesus would come and die for each member of this city council, this mayor, my life. And it says so much about their incredible value and worth in your eyes. Today, I pray that you'd give them all they need, that Lord, you'd be all they need, and that you would cause this to be a great day for them as a council. Thank you for the honor it is just to come before the throne of grace on their behalf and on behalf of the city of Oklahoma City. Lord, would you protect our city and cause it to be a beacon of light in a very dark world? I ask it in Jesus' name and for his sake and his glory and for everyone here's good. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
My pleasure.
Okay, I call this meeting of the City Council to order. We'll start with item 3, Office of the Mayor. Let's handle item 3B first. We usually start there. This is a resolution recognizing and commending Amanda Girdler on her selection as the September 2020 Teacher of the Month by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. Before we read the resolution and learn more about Amanda, I believe that Janet Vernon, spokesperson for the Rotary Club, is on the line. Is that correct? Do we have Janet?
Good morning, Mayor Holt. Yes, I am here.
Yes, I think you wanted to say a few words today about this monthly tradition that we've been doing for many years.
Yes, I do. Thank you this morning for this opportunity to speak briefly about the celebration of Teacher of the Month and our continual process and partnership. As Rotary Club 29's Teacher of the Month Chair, I am so honored to recognize Ms. Girdler and publicly acknowledge the work that she does with students. But I also want to talk about the work that we do each month in partnership. Rotary Club 29, along with your office, continues the Teacher of the Month celebrations that you're having here by inviting a teacher to lunch, introducing them to our membership, providing a monetary gift to assist them with their classroom and school supplies, and taking a photo with Rotary Club 29's current president, former Governor David Walters, and other Rotarian leadership. So I just want to say thank you this morning for allowing us this opportunity. Thanks for what you're doing for teachers. And thank you for allowing me to have this moment to share with you.
Well, thank you. And thank you to the Rotary Club and to everybody who makes this celebration every month possible. And with that, let's hear more about this month's teacher. Francis, would you mind reading this resolution?
Whereas Amanda Girdler has been named Teacher of the Month for September 2020 by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. Whereas Amanda is a 5th grade math and science teacher at Taft Elementary. She has been teaching for 5 years. And whereas Amanda received an associate degree in physical education from Crowder College, Bachelor of Arts in General Studies from Missouri Southern State University, and a master's degree in higher education from the University of Oklahoma. And whereas Amanda considers one of her accomplishments with her students to be her investment in them and their investment in her and the community they have built together. Whereas Amanda believes feedback is key to teaching students. She collects feedback from her students on lessons planned, their performance, and how they feel about a concept or subject matter. She says education is the most meaningful social justice work that there is, and it requires love, forgiveness, and humility. Whereas Amanda contributes to the community through education in many ways, including Voices Organized in Civic Engagement, a group working to inform the public on candidates for public office, as well as working to enact legislation that is centered on justice and equity. She is the math team lead and a mentor teacher for first-year teachers at Taft. She started both the basketball and football team at her previous school and currently coaches basketball and football. She serves as a Sunday school teacher, a vacation Bible school volunteer, and a member of the Christian Board of Education at Mayflower United Church of Christ. Whereas Amanda was presented the Loves Teacher of the Month Award in September 2018 and was selected as first runner-up for the OKCPS Teacher of the Year for 2020 at the virtual event held in August. She is also a Google certified educator. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Amanda Girdler on her selection as September 2020 Teacher of the Month by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Great. Well, that was great. Thank you, Francis. Why don't we go ahead and adopt the resolution, and then we'd love to hear from Amanda. Are we able to take motions here yet? Just says waiting on my.
The system did something weird. Give us just a second here.
Francis is. It says say waiting on your screen.
It's taking some time. We can do a voice vote, Mayor, if you want to.
Okay. Who would like to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Francis, please call the roll.
Okay, James Greiner, James Cooper,
Yes.
Larry McAtee,
Yes.
Todd Stone,
Aye.
David Greenwell,
Yes.
Jo Beth Hammond,
Yes.
Nikki Nice,
Yes.
Mark Stonecipher,
Please.
and Mayor Holt.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. All right, Amanda, are you on the line? We'd love to hear from you. And that was a great biographical sketch we just received. We're very grateful for everything you do for the kids of our city. Are you there on the line?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Amanda. Would you like to
Thank
say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. Sorry, I was getting some things ready for class. I really appreciate this. This is super awesome. It's really cool to get recognized for doing something that you just love to do every single day. Teaching has a really unique perspective in that in a world where frequently there's not a lot of hope in a lot of things, teachers get to spend every single day, sorry, with a whole lot of hope because it's in our classrooms, whether that's on Google Meet or in the building, currently on Google Meet. So it's just really an incredible honor. It's the hardest and holiest work that there is. And teaching is the greatest honor of my life. And thank you.
Well, thank you so very much for all you do. And yeah, you're probably about to kick off class if you haven't already. I know I'm on the other side of that Google Meet in my household right now. So thank you so much for adapting as well to this unique circumstance. We appreciate you very much.
Mayor?
Yes.
Amanda, are you still there?
I am.
Hi.
Hi.
just wanted to say, as a fellow teacher, I'm just so, you just said holy as a description of our profession. And I'm just so thankful for the work you're doing with those kids, especially the subject matter you're dealing with, and finding ways to apply that to their everyday life. Just really thank you for what you're doing. I know what I'm going through at the college level, where it's a mixture of in-person and virtual, and these are adults. You have my full heart for what you're doing with our youngsters right now during this kind of very awkward, surreal science fiction novel we're living in right now. So just
click here a lot.
Say it again.
They click here a lot. Lots of click here. No, not there. Click here. The left corner, not the right corner. We're getting there. It's just another adventure, and I love every second of it.
Well, I'm just so thankful for you, and just thank you. And I just wanted to say that to you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you again, Amanda. Okay. We're going to move on to item 3A. This is appointment of J.D. Baker to serve as a citizen member of the Lake Atoka Association. This is a reappointment. I always say we have a very special relationship with Atoka because of Lake Atoka and McGee Creek. And we certainly want to continue that. And I think there's a meeting coming up this week or next of that relationship. Is there a motion and a second? Are we able to do this digitally, Francis?
Yes, I think so.
There we go. All right, motion and a second. Cast your votes.
This is James. It just
Yes.
says, I can see where it says voting, or sorry, moved and seconded, but then it says voting.
Okay, councilperson, either click escape or go down to the bottom and click your Chrome icon, and it should show the voting button. If not, you can voice vote and we'll mark it for you.
I think she's saying that you're actually seeing the Zoom and not the Prime Go.
Can you see your Chrome button at the bottom of your screen?
I don't know what that means.
She means the little Google icon. She's trying to get you to open your browser.
Okay, I think we're good. I can vote now.
You voted, yes. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, passes unanimously. Now moving on to item 4, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 5, request for uncontested continuances. We already have item 9B3 is going to be continued to September 29th. Mr. City Manager, what else do we have?
Yes, sir. We have, starting on page 6, item 7Q3. We're asking to strike this item. That's at the request of Councilwoman Nye. She'd like to visit with staff about the recommendation. This is on one of the art projects that's in Ward 7. So we're asking to strike this item. On page 14, Item 9.1, dilapidated structures. Item A, and we'll strike this item. It's 2615 South Broadway Avenue, and that's to re-notify the owner. On page 14, under item 9I1, unsecured structures. Item B, 14300 Coles Road. We're going to strike this item. The owner has secured. On page 15, continuing under unsecured structures, all of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item I, 6321 South Phillips Avenue. The owner is secured. Item K, 1147 West Wilshire Boulevard. The owner is secured. Item L, 1618 Northwest 3rd Street. The owner has secured. And then item N, 1312 Northwest 8th Street. The owner has secured. On item S, this is an apartment building, so it's 4701 Northwest 16th Street. There's all these AKA addresses and then several apartment buildings at the end. This item is stricken as well. The owner has secured. Item U, 2237 Northwest 22nd Street. The owner has secured. Item X, 3068 Southwest 37th Place. The owner has secured. Item Z, 2418 Southwest 44th Street. The owner has secured. Item AB, 3244 Southwest 49th Street. The owner has secured. Item AD, 433 Northwest 87th Street. The owner has secured. Item AG, 2629 Northwest 121st Street. The owner has secured. Continuing on page 16, item 9J1, abandoned buildings. These items are all stricken from the agenda as well. Item I, 1618 Northwest 3rd Street. The owner has secured. Item N, 4701 Northwest 16th Street, and all the apartment buildings and numbers listed under that. They're all stricken. The owner has secured. Item O, 2237 Northwest 22nd Street. The owner has secured. Item S, 3244 Southwest 49th Street. The owner has secured. Item V, 433 Northwest 87th Street. The owner has secured. Item W, 2629 Northwest 121st Street. The owner has secured. And then on page 17, item 9P, this was an executive session that was previously scheduled. We're going to strike this item, and staff will bring this back at a later date. That's all the items I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. We'll move on now to item 6, revocable permits. Item 6A is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership to hold Robinson Avenue parklets, September 16th through December 15th. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak on this? Okay. Councilwoman Hammond?
Yes. Is Jason Fairbrush on? I'd love for him to kind of speak to, I know we spoke about this quite a while ago before the pandemic, and I'm excited to see it finally come to fruition. I'd love him to kind of speak to the process and the intention of this space for folks to know about if he's available.
Yeah. Hi, Jason Fairbrush, Director of Public Transportation and Parking. This is the parklet that's going to be installed along Robinson there at Park. Is that the one you're asking about, Councilwoman?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, to your point, we've been looking forward to this opportunity for quite some time, partnering with Downtown OKC to install a parklet right there along Robinson. The advantage, of course, for the community is additional outside space along that corner, but then it also certainly we believe will help the streetcar movement through that area. As I've shared with council in the past, that one area right there at Robinson and Park is one of the areas where the streetcar blockages are highest. It's just typically a pretty bad spot for us. There's some area there that's kind of striped off for no parking, but we have a lot of people that continue to try to use it for deliveries and such. So we're looking forward to this parklet going in. We think it will again help the streetcar and then also open up some outdoor different type of space right there on that corner.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it and hope it, especially in these times, having more of that outdoor seating, I think will be really great for the community and the businesses surrounding there to be able to have their patrons access that. So I will move for approval once it comes up on the screen.
All right, we've got motion and a second. Cast your votes. Seems to be hung up on you, Councilwoman Hammond. Have you voted? There we go. Passes unanimously. All right, we're going to recess the council meeting now and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through C we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll now adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. There we have items A and B we can take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll now adjourn OCPPA and convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust, where we have two items, A and B, we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust and reconvene as the council, where we find ourselves on page 3 of your printed agenda, item 7, the consent docket. There are presentations for items AI, AK, AO, AS. We also need to amend or consider an amendment to item AE, and item Q3 was previously struck. Is there any other item that anybody wishes to discuss or pull out for a separate vote? Okay. I will consider that a no, and we will then take those items in order, which means we will start with AE. Mr. City Manager, I believe we need to consider an amendment to this item.
Yes, sir. Craig Keith is on the line with, he's with the Municipal Council's office and will speak to this item. There were some changes. This is on the change of their water agreement with the Choctaws and Chickasaws, and had some changes that came just last minute, literally yesterday, from the federal government. And Craig will just explain what they are. But he said they're really inconsequential changes in total. They don't really change the purpose or the intent of the agreement. But there are just a few clarifications the federal government wanted to include in the agreement. So I'll let Craig walk us through those.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I apologize for these late changes. We got them literally after 5 o'clock yesterday. They are being presented to the Secretary of Interior for the United States government today. And the changes were sent out to you, and Zach Nash and Francis Leaders are helping us with the screen. There are two documents that are to be authorized to be executed by virtue of the joint resolution, which is on your agenda today. The changes are on the settlement of the act is basically just simply on that first page. It's a legal citation citing to Section 1810 and adding also Section 1811 of that federal law, which authorized the Secretary of Interior to publish information. It does not relate to the city or any action the city needs to take, but the federal government requested that addition be made. That's on the third whereas of the extension of the Settlement Act. Similarly, in the document, which is the extension of the settlement agreement, that has the same citation change on the third whereas on the first page, adding 1811 to where it formerly says 1810, to demonstrate the authority of the Secretary of Interior to sign the document. And on the second page, ironically, also on the third whereas clause, they added 3 words, "such extension is," because when they typed up the notice, they added the 3 words and did not put it in the whereas clause. Neither of these changes the substantive agreement, which is the sentence down at the bottom of the page. Neither of them affect the city or the city's obligations or rights under the documents. It is done to permit the United States government to have sufficient time to take it through all of their many processes and then to publish the information so that they can have the appropriate hearings and signatures. And that is the basis of those changes.
Okay. Any questions for Craig?
Will we be receiving this, what we're seeing on our screen, for instance, this amended with the notes, like the council members just receive like that as a PDF?
They were sent out with the assistance of Debbie Martin to you in a Word document. I can send them to you as a PDF as well. In addition, I can send you the document with those changes and a clean copy to you as well.
Whichever one's fine. The Word document's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got an email from Debbie this morning with this document, so you may have it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Uh-huh.
Okay, any other questions on this? Do we want to move to amend item AE as described by Craig? Keith? Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now, Francis, can we just now, this item on the consent docket is now amended. Can we just move on and then approve all items together as per usual? Okay. Okay, thank you, Craig Keith.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now we're at item AI, and I believe we do have a presentation on this rather exciting item.
Yes, on item AI, Aubrey McDermott is going to provide a presentation for us. I did want to mention, though, that this is just a unique opportunity that Prairie Surf Media came to us. Rachel Cannon and Matt Payne are both on the line as well, who can help answer questions if there are. This is a letter of intent with Prairie Surf Media with the potential use for the Cox Center. As everyone knows, going into the opening of the new convention center, we've got this challenge of having 2 convention centers that are available. We'll just have one functioning as our main convention center, but knowing what to do with the Cox Center, we've been looking at that in different ways. And this is a unique opportunity that came to us. Aubrey's provided great leadership on this to try to get us as far as we are right now, just to a letter of intent. And we're going to let Aubrey just take us through the agreement and what the proposal is to try to move forward with the Cox Center.
Hi, Mayor and Council, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry I cannot get my video to work, so I'm going to be dark on the screen, but I'm glad you can hear my voice. Several months ago, Prairie Surf Media approached city staff looking for different options to locate this film production studio in an existing building in Oklahoma City. We tried to brainstorm all the different options that we might have to be able to help them out, and ultimately the Cox Center was determined to be the best fit for their opportunity. It met their needs. The space is large. It has a clear span free of columns, high ceilings, and it's a space that could be converted or turned into multiple sound stages, which is what they were looking for. But as Craig mentioned, at the same time, that opportunity came at a time when city staff had been considering options of how to transition one of our most important sites and facilities into its next productive life, because we have a new convention center coming online. So we know that this site is one of our most premier and attractive sites downtown. We know that it's probably years away from being redeveloped as something that's at its highest and best use. So this opportunity to have an interim use in the building that activates the building, brings jobs into our sector, is something in an industry that we think has a lot of promise in Oklahoma City, was just
kind of a great deal. So where we are right now is that we are entering into this letter of intent and agreement with Prairie Surf Media to allow them to go out and market the Cox Center facility to all their different industry connections and hopefully bring TV series or films to Oklahoma City and convert the Cox Center space to use the facility for that. So at this point, they would go out and reach out to people, come back to the city with a proposal. We would negotiate terms, and then they would lease the space from the city. So this is not the last time that you'll see this. We expect that we would negotiate a lease agreement and bring it back by the end of the year for City Council to review. So this is, one of the first steps in the process, but a really exciting one, because there's been a lot of interest in bringing the film industry to Oklahoma City. And Rachel Cannon and Matt Payne, who are with Prairie Surf Media, are industry experts. They have a ton of energy and connections. They're the best people to make this happen, we believe. And I believe Rachel and Matt and John Michael Williams, their attorney who's representing them, are on the line. If you have any questions for them, or if you'd like to hear from them, they're standing by. Or if you have any questions for me.
Okay. Well, Rachel and or Matt, however you want to handle it, I think we'd love to just hear a few words from you, just to express, your thoughts on this and your path as it's going forward as you see it. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, look at you. And look, is that John Michael lurking behind you? Yeah.
Always.
Oh, very appropriate. Well, go ahead and share a few words of passion if you wouldn't mind, because it's been fun to see this thing progress over the last few months with you.
Yeah, thank you, Council, for hearing us out on this. This is a really, really exciting opportunity. My name is Matt Payne. I'm from Oklahoma City. Grew up here, moved to California in 2001 with the hope that I could get into the film industry. And in 2015, I saw how Oklahoma City had changed and was continuing to change. And that really included in the film space. And have done a lot of exciting things in film. But when Rachel moved back, and I'll let her give a little bit of her background, we decided we really wanted to do something impactful here in terms of creating job and creating workforce and building out the industry. And so that became kind of our focus, and has kind of led us here to where we are now.
Yeah. So my name is Rachel Cannon. I have been out in Los Angeles for the last 20 years, but again, I'm also an Oklahoma native, born and raised here. I went out to Los Angeles 20 years ago because I had to be in the industry. I worked as an actress for the last 20 years doing shows like 2.5 Men and Big Bang Theory. I got to do the last season of Mad Men. The last 6 years, I've worked on a show called Fresh Off the Boat on ABC. And as that show was coming to an end, I started noticing a trend in all of my new job opportunities. None of them were happening in California anymore. All of them were being pushed to production hubs all over the United States, like Atlanta and Chicago and New Mexico. And the reason is because the streaming industry has completely changed entertainment, and there are so many opportunities. They are spending so much money on production, but what they need is lower cost of living and space to grow and sound stages. And so when Matt and I got back, when I got back last year, we really sat down and talked about, Oklahoma has a hunger for this industry. It has a, cash rebate. It has a workforce that's already growing. There are already wonderful films coming here. What is missing that could take us to that next level so that we could become a Georgia or a New Mexico? And we really found that infrastructure was the one thing missing. So when we were able to speak to Aubrey and Tom Anderson about the possibility of the Cox Center, it really seems like an incredible opportunity for us to take this industry to the next level. And we are so incredibly excited about the job opportunities, the economic diversity, and what it will mean for Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's great. It just seems like a really remarkable convergence of your vision, an available building, a building that would not otherwise, it's perfect, but it wouldn't otherwise be available if not for this particular timing. And then, as you said, this burgeoning industry backed by, state tax credit support. It's just really a great moment that I think you guys are capturing. Are there any questions or comments from council to Rachel, Matt, or Aubrey?
Yes, Matt, Rachel, Mark Stonecipher here from Ward 8. Just one question. Will John Michael Williams be having any acting roles in any of your productions?
Only if you will be joining him, sir.
That is unlikely.
I guess my only question, and I think this might be more for city staff, is has there been discussion or vision about what to do with this building before this opportunity became available, and what the long range vision or desire for that block would be? Is that what has been the discussion prior to this moment?
Oh, we've done.
I'll go ahead. Let me go ahead and start on that, Aubrey, and then I'll let you jump in. Aubrey's going to be more of an expert really as far as development goes, but Aubrey said something when she started off with this block, this area as being a prime area for development. And she talked about, she used the phrase, she says, highest and best use for that block. So there's definitely a vision that this has, great potential. And I'll let Aubrey talk us through that. But we really think just because of where development is, some of the effects of COVID, where we are with just vacancies downtown, that we really think we're quite a ways off from that. So it's really been a challenge for us of what do we do with this building in the meantime? And so it's a perfect opportunity. I think that's, probably not a permanent location that they would be looking for. They would even have a bigger vision for their business plan. But I'll let Aubrey speak to just kind of what the intent and what we've been looking at with some of the development opportunities in that location.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have done multiple planning exercises looking at the opportunity to develop walls, in urban planner terms, walls around Myriad Gardens. So we have multiple vacant sites with the Bob Howard site, the old OG&E office tower site. This site, we knew the Cox Center at some point would go away when we had a new convention center. So we have envisioned a development opportunity to have more high-rise buildings in our downtown, mixed-use buildings. The plans and studies envisioned that maybe we would reconnect the grid through this super block where the Cox Center once stood. We've got lots of hopes and dreams, I think, for the eventual redevelopment of this site. But we also are realistic in knowing that the market's not ready to support that type of redevelopment of that site right now. We knew that we had a building that still had life in it. We had done some interim types of analyses on what it would take to just keep the building functional and up and running, what types of uses might be able to go into it. We know that the current use of the building for events and meeting space is something that's probably redundant with the new convention center coming online. And then you add on top of that the coronavirus, which is limiting people in gatherings, and we don't know how long that effect is going to take. So really thinking about that, the use of such a big space being repurposed for anything else like office, which we have abundance of in downtown right now, or retail, which probably wouldn't fill that space. Really having a user come in that activates this space as a resident tenant is probably the best option for Oklahoma City right now. And it just kind of came out of the sky, fell out of the sky for us. So, of all the scenarios that we've thought through, this was kind of a head scratcher. We certainly did not want to consider taking the building down, because having a vacant site in such a prime piece of downtown would not be good. It would be an eyesore, and who knows how long it would sit vacant until it's time to redevelop the site. So we're really excited about this opportunity because we think it's a great fit for the use of the building and bring a lot of activity to our downtown.
Thank you. I appreciate that context.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as a representative who represents this space that is coming on board, one of the questions that I had, and I know we're still going to work through, is just that connection piece of how the Cox Center sits between the Chesapeake and also the Renaissance Hotel, with the bridge where people can connect and go through to different areas of our city in that particular block if needed. So I know that's something we're going to continue to work through. So that was my main concern. But I just wanted to say that I had a conversation with Rachel and Matt last week just to hear from them about what their desires are and how this will benefit our city. And I am excited about what is coming. And I think we all are when it comes to this, but also the fact that now this will also help us to revive parts of Bricktown, to truly turn that into the arts entertainment district that it has been named for. So I think just being able to have that type of connection is another way to look at this type of development, for that connection of also what is to come for Bricktown, and to see life, more life come into play for that area as well. So especially with natives from Oklahoma, I think that's the most important piece of this puzzle, that we don't have folks coming from outside to work through this process. We have people that are actually from our state to say, we want to do something and we want to make it better for our residents, and again, give that economic opportunity and job workforce. That's the one thing I think we all can agree on, that we want to make sure we continue to speak up for our city. So thank you, and looking forward to working through this process.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Aubrey, Rachel, or Matt?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt and Rachel, for bringing this opportunity to our city. Yeah, I'm excited. And Matt and I met during some capstone projects at OCU, where I adjuncted, where he adjuncted as well. Screenwriting, right, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I have some questions and some comments. First, would you walk us through, when you all talk about jobs, what does that mean? Like I have a pretty good sense of what you're talking about, but I think it might be helpful for the public to kind of get a better sense of what you all mean when you say this opportunity means jobs.
So, when you say film, a lot of people, first thing that comes to mind is sort of actors, directors, and producers. But the reality with film is each film creates hundreds of jobs. And the jobs range from, construction workers to electricians. There's the conventional, like we think of cameramen, but we also have seamstresses. We have caterers. We have the guys that drive the trucks. There are hundreds of jobs that are involved in the film industry, tech, editors. And with film, other businesses follow, which is the other exciting part of it. It creates an enormous workforce. And that's just one film. Like, we think about the Cox Center as a facility that could service two films, and really what our goal is to grow into something even larger, so that we can create, hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. And these are high paying jobs. And the other thing, when you think about jobs in the film industry, is a lot of these jobs are transition jobs, so it's people who have existing skill sets that might have find themselves out of work or want to try something different. You can pivot, from a construction worker, in just building a building, to I'm going to build sets at the Cox Center. If you're an electrician, you can be an electrician on a set. And what we want to do is, work with education partners in the state as well, to help people, not only like students that are coming up that want to break into the industry, but people that are looking to transition, or that are unemployed, finding ways to plug them into the workforce. So that's really the way that we think about it in terms of job opportunity. It's the creative part is certainly the bright, shiny star on the top, but what we're building is that we want, we're the tree, roots and all. So those are the kind of jobs that we're talking about.
And just to add on to that, the average wages, which I think is really important to point out, is $106,000 a year. Nikki, I think I told you it was 86. I went and looked it up. It's actually $106,000 a year, and that is 80% above the national average. So those are the kind of jobs we're looking to bring here for our Oklahomans.
And Jane, since you asked, and since we share, since we both taught at OCU, one of the there are a few moments that were kind of turning moments for me in this process. And one was I taught film business and screenwriting at Oklahoma City University. And, I had, a classroom full of students who are brilliant. These are passionate kids that want to be in the workforce. And they love their home. And in 2016, when they say, Matt, do I have to move to LA or to Atlanta? It broke my heart to think that probably yes was the correct answer. And that was one of the moments where I was like, I want to change that here. Filmmaking is my passion, but the reality is, like, I want to create an environment, and Rachel, I echo, Rachel feels the same way, where we are retaining our most talented students, and we're keeping them here, and we're creating jobs for them. The job, we want the jobs are going to be robust, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be everyone from electricians to creatives coming out of college.
Yeah, and I echo all of what you're saying. Yes, I have a few more things. One, could you kind of walk us through what productions look like right now in COVID and how you all anticipate mitigating that? I know we're seeing a lot of delayed releases, for instance, right now. I know a lot of production stalling has happened. So what does that look like? How is the industry adapting? And you all are the industry. How do you all imagine it adapting, and how does this space kind of help?
So, the interesting thing is that, with the shift in streaming, there was an incredible supply and demand issue before COVID. So you had, but from 2013 to today, there had been a 700% increase in content development, yet there was only a 15% increase in sound stages across America. So we were already having a problem in having enough sound stages to support the amount of productions that were needing to be produced. COVID just exacerbated that need because it stopped all productions, and now it puts them all at the starting line, which kind of feels like the land run all over again because now people are scrambling to try and figure out where they're going to be able to do these productions. The white paper is the Guild Guide regulations that is a very extensive plan that maps out how to get people back to work safely. I know that Tava Sofsky at our film office is following that guideline for Oklahoma. There have already been several Oklahoma productions that have gotten back to work very safely. I know Reagan is in production right now with Dennis Quaid. I have a small part that I'm doing in that this month or next month. And I know that part of it is, you get tests 3 times a week, and, there are just different regulations that really make sure that people are spread out. The Cox Center is such a brilliant use for that space because you have the attached hotel, you have a commercial grade kitchen for catering, you have, room to spread your productions out. So you have different groups being able to do it where, even if it's, 100 or 200 people on this production, they're not standing all together, they're spacing out. So we feel like COVID has actually played into Oklahoma's favor because there are so many places looking for a place. And because of our numbers, because, I feel like you guys have done such a great job at keeping our numbers down and keeping us safe, that actually is something that productions are really looking at right now. Like, where is a safe place to get back to work? And I will tell you, it's not California. So we definitely have an advantage there.
And then I think my kind of final 3 notes here. One, and it's something I mentioned to Aubrey when she brought this to me, when she mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I mentioned it to the mayor as well. And this is more, I guess, for staff. But as we move toward when this returns to council, for me, it's very important that the aesthetic of this building, I'm not asking for like a complete renovation of the exterior, but I just see an opportunity, arguably a necessity, that the exterior of this building look nice. Like there be something that speaks to the arts, and specifically this particular art. So, I mean, and it doesn't need to be anything, like I said, extravagant. I'm even a fan of, you know, when we've seen on the sides of our buildings, those images of our Thunder players or of concerts, like when Cher was once upon a time going to be coming to our city. But things like that, I just think that that's really important because this is such prime real estate. And I think being able to speak to the medium itself, not just film, but television, of course. But I would really, really, really want us to do something landscape aesthetic wise to the exterior of this building. Because we're talking, what, 5 to 7 years worth of this particular use right in the heart of our city. So that, I think that's very important. Aubrey or Mayor, is that, or City Manager, is that something that when this comes back before council that we would address, or is that a right now conversation?
I would say that's really more something as we're working through the agreement.
Okay.
I think we're going to be careful because we want to, there's just going to be some needs within the building that we got to make sure as we're working through together. There's structural needs they've identified already, that there's going to be costs that are there. So I think it's going to be depending on the funding that's available. I mean, obviously all of us want it to look nice if we go forward. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to keep the building active, even if it wasn't for this opportunity. We wanted to keep it active so it wasn't just an eyesore in the middle of downtown. So this gives us that opportunity, something we can work through as we're working through logistics and agreements.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
I just to sort of add on to that, you know, we feel very much that we want, while the productions will take place in the building, you know, creating a sense of space in downtown Oklahoma City is really, really important. And we don't want this to feel like this strange, like, enclave that is not incorporated into the city space. Like, we want this to be like a point of pride for Oklahoma City. And so in that, you know, when we start talking about what it looks like, you know, in downtown, that's something that excites us very much. Like, we've thought about like having, you know, can lights, like adding almost to the skyline, you know, posters on the side of there are lots of really, really interesting ways that we can sort of use this building to say we're definitively in the movie business here, you know, in the same way that our skyscrapers speak to different industries. Like, let's let this do the same, you know. So I echo your thought, James.
Good. Yeah, I completely agree with the approach you just described. To me, as a visual medium, it offers this opportunity, film and television. And then I'm really glad to hear you all talk about education partners. And I really want to challenge our city to think about this. You know, when I started in film production school at OCCC 20 years ago, what Matt and Rachel are bringing to us right now, this was always the vision. The vision was always that we needed this sort of facility, and we haven't had it. And it's why so many of our people who have received training at OCCC or at OCU or at OU, so many of them, a lot of them, my friends, have found themselves having to move to LA, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. So this has just been a long time coming. I think I have two challenges to everybody, and I hope I'm not just speaking into the wind here. One is, it is critical. I think it's critical that we do everything we can for the institutions here in the metro area, the higher education ones, and quite frankly, K through 12. I think that film studies, not just production, but film studies, the history, the analytical side of things has to marry with production. And I would like to see in the metro, the city and our educational partners having conversations about what film studies, video game studies looks like. And I know OCU has been very committed to these conversations about video games, but I have to tell you all, it would be such a missed opportunity if we do not educate our people, not just in production, but really being good, strong, critical thinkers about how this medium, these respective mediums, whether it's video games, television, or film, how they work, because that creativity will come from those classes. Mm-hmm. That is so important that we're not just like, you know, rinse, wash, repeating, you know, the Odyssey over and over again. And I will be happy to be a part of those conversations in any way you all feel I can be helpful. Speaking of that, I do believe in an interview with the Oklahoman, the mayor gave kudos to the film and music office at the state level. I would echo that. He said something I found really intriguing. Mayor, I don't know if it was a slip of the tongue, I don't know, but you mentioned wouldn't it be cool if at the city level we had an office of film and music? When you said that, my heart almost beat out of my chest, because I think the work I just described in terms of making sure that our kids, not just higher education, but K through 12, in the same way that they have English classes that teach them how to analyze the written text, so much of film studies is about how to read images, how to read them, and then in this instance, how to reproduce them, produce them in new ways. And I would love for us to take seriously the idea of some sort of nascent film and video office at the city level. I know we have that innovation thing down in the first floor of the city hall. Maybe this could be a task for them to start thinking about. But I just can't stress enough, our kids are communicating with each other through images now, whether it's TikTok, Snapchat, you all know this. And I think it's time that we educate them on how to manipulate those images in more effective ways, whether it's for storytelling or to be able to make money to support themselves and have those skills. Mayor, is this a real opportunity facing us?
You're saying the prospect of a local film and music office?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's funny. I mean, those are definitely conversations that were ongoing before COVID. Unfortunately, obviously, that's hit, the budgets of all the entities that might consider that. In Tulsa, their film and music office is funded through the chamber. But of course, our hotel motel tax that funds our CVB took the biggest hit of all this year. So it's something I think we should dream about. By the way, that's a good segue. If you're done, I've got Tava Sofsky on the line to talk about the project at hand. If you're ready for that, James.
I would just, as a wrapping up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just to circle back around. I'm very thankful for what Rachel and Matt have brought to our city. I'm very proud of you all. The jobs are important, the technical jobs, the grips, the electricians, you name it, but also the jobs that could come from those outside productions, or where the hotelier and the restaurant person and the bar person, like that, those are jobs that are associated with this as well. Look forward to those landscaping conversations. But yeah, Mayor, I mean, even though we might not have funding right now, like I would be interested, and it sounds like maybe it's early conversations with Matt and Rachel, but I'd be interested in finding out, like, just very early, what would even such an office look like? What are those educational goals in front of us? Like, what is this industry? What are we going to need here to make sure that this industry thrives, survives, and especially does so for our local folk? I want to be a part of those conversations, is what I'm saying. I want to offer up my services. I volunteer as tribute. But yeah, take it from there, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. And that is the segue, if we've got her on the line, Tava Sofsky, who, for lack of having a local film office, we have certainly had Tava, and she's done a fantastic job. She serves the whole state, but she has certainly done right by Oklahoma City. Tava, are you on the line? And at this point, Tava, if you push *6, I think, if we have brought you in.
Am I here?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm here.
I hear you.
Yay. All right. You hear me? Okay. So no camera here. I can't tell what. Well, thank you, everyone, and good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council, men and women. And then Rachel and Matt, just a big hats off to you guys for your vision. And James, we need to get together because your passion is certainly contagious. And as Mayor Holt indicated, we have been talking about more boots on the ground in the Oklahoma City area for a film liaison. So all things are possible. I just really wanted to weigh in this morning and congratulate everyone on the vision on this step today. I believe that this is not just a temporary or sort of an interim decision and commitment. I'm hoping, and the state will support whatever we can to see this vision live on. There's so much opportunity. I could go on and on. I won't take everyone's time, but I'm always here to answer questions, provide data, testimonials, as we've done with Rachel and Prairie Serve. We are just honored that they're here, and we appreciate your support. And as Rachel indicated, these are high-paying jobs. And with only 6 streaming companies estimated to spend $34 billion in the next year for Oklahoma, just to get a sliver of that, wouldn't you? And put more people to work in Oklahoma. And so thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments for staff or Rachel and Matt? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rachel and Matt. This item will fall into a vote that'll occur in a few minutes with some other items. So you may want to still hang around, but I think it's going to be okay. But we're going to move on now to some discussion of some other items on the consent docket. But thank you again for your vision, and we look forward to partnering with you in the months and years ahead.
Thank you, guys.
So much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, item AK. Mr. City Manager, I believe you have a presentation on this.
Yes, we do. This is a request for proposal, and Kenny Soodle, Assistant City Manager Kenny Soodle, is going to take us through what we have in the request for proposal. This is really work that's come out of working both with the mayor's law enforcement policy task force. We had conversations with the task force about concepts that we would incorporate into consultant services to help support the task force and their work. Then also the community policing working group that was established by the council had directed me through resolution to establish that and look at 6 different areas of community policing. And so this really tried to work with both of those groups, bring together their concepts and ideas, and to stay focused on specifically the topics from the task force as assigned by the mayor, and then through the working group, through the council resolution. But we broadened it to try to leave room to address some of the other issues that were areas of interest and concern. And so I'm going to let Kenny take us through what we've got in the RFP. And I just wanted to make sure you kind of knew the context and where we're heading with this.
Good morning. I'm Kenny Soodle, Assistant City Manager. And as Craig said, this is really an RFP looking for proposals from consulting firms to help us with our various tasks associated with the mayor's task force and the city manager's community policing work group. We've had 2 meetings of the task force, and we've also had 2 meetings of the working group. And in one of the meetings in the task force and one of the meetings of the working group, we laid out some proposed, really 2 things for the group to look at. Anytime you do an RFP, there's 2 major areas: the scope of work, what we're going to ask them to do and to propose on, and then the selection criteria, what are the things we're going to look at and use to select those consultants. And so we had a facilitated discussion in both of those groups where we got feedback and comments and some review, and tried to take both the comments and feedback we got from the mayor's law enforcement policy task force and meld those together with the comments from the working group, which I will say were very, very similar. I don't think we had any comments that were in conflict or concepts. Of course, as Craig said, the main focus was trying to make sure we address the 2 topics from the task force and the 6 initiatives from the resolution that's associated with the community policing work group. But we also wanted to talk in there about making sure that not only do proposers tell us about their experience and their qualifications in those areas, but also, what's the implementation plan, take a look at the budget, what's the plan for getting input from the community, from staff, from other stakeholders. And so these are some of the things that we're asking consultants to propose on. I do want to say both groups were open It's my opinion they were open to using the same consulting group if we were able and fortunate enough to find one that can handle all of these topics. If there are multiple, if it ends up being multiple consultants, that's also an option as well. Very quickly, there is a pretty tight timeline on this. It's a very important step to move forward, especially as we look towards trying to get the work going so that we can potentially look at any changes for the budget next year. The proposals would be due, if approved, this would be out on the street tomorrow. The proposals would be due October the 7th, and we would take the ending part of October to kind of work through this, create a selection committee, which will follow our city policy on selection committees, but also we will endeavor to incorporate members from both the task force and the working group on that selection committee, and then get, presentations, et cetera, information from the various proposers. And ultimately, we're hoping to target trying to bring a contract back in November. It's a very aggressive timeline, but we think it's one that's doable. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kenny or Fred?
Yeah, this is Mark Stonesover. I had a couple of questions. And you answered a few of them. One, are we going to have a single consultant? Are we going to have multiple consultants? I get that. But I know when the task force met, there was a lot of discussions about a group called 21CP, which I've been trying to do some research on. And you say get it out on the street tomorrow. What does it mean getting an RFP out on the street? Who does it go to? How does it get there? Who will have an opportunity to see this, please?
Yeah, so this will be published just like any other RFP in our bid sync system, which is an online system. People can also find it through our website. So it'll be available electronically that folks can download it, look at all the requirements, and then the proposals have to be submitted in our system, just like any other RFP. One of the things, I did encourage both groups to share with me if they have groups that they think might be qualified or interested, and that's something we'll be doing as well. Reaching out and letting people know who might be interested, such as that group you mentioned, that, hey, this is available, please go out there and look at it, and please propose if it's something you're interested in doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kenny?
Kenny,
Go ahead.
yeah, thanks for your work with both groups. I'm only a little confused though. I know I had to leave our law enforcement task force meeting. Whew, that's a mouthful. Mm-hmm. I know I had to leave that a little bit early to go teach at OCU the last time we met. That was the meeting where we were adding items to the scope of work. Mm-hmm. At the end of that meeting, did everyone agree on that scope of work? I don't remember that.
Yeah, so we had, if you'll recall, we had that up, displayed electronically, took comments at the end. I sort of did a facilitation check to ask if everybody was good with that. Were there other comments? Encourage folks to send me additional comments. It's my opinion. I felt like everybody was pretty good with where we ended up. I haven't gotten any negative feedback on it.
Would it be possible after our council meeting for you and I to look at especially the law enforcement task force, but both of those two scope of works, because I just didn't get to see that, so I haven't.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Opportunity to look at that. And in looking at that, would it still be possible, like if there was something to add, to do that?
Yeah, so it's not impossible. We can do addendums to our RFPs, and that oftentimes happens. Our challenge on this one will be that it's such a tight timeline trying to get that out there without extending the deadline. I mean, one of the issues is really just trying to get this thing going, that it's going to take probably till November to get a contract, and then that only leaves us maybe 3 or 4 months if we're really pushing it to get some of this work done. And we do think, it'll be an iterative process, and we can't amend the budget anytime, but we're really trying to push so that we can try to have some information as to inform the budget process as we go into the next fiscal year, which is generally happening in the first part of the calendar year.
I would add to that as well, that as we go through this and we look, if we have the discussions and there's some things we want to add, we can also add alternative services to the contract that could be added in. So with an RFP process, you have a lot more flexibility. Getting this out, getting it advertised, starting to communicate with different consultants that might be interested in these services may help us get better information about things we need to do to tweak in the contract anyway.
And Councilman, along those lines, we wrote in a section that basically kind of said what Craig's saying. We called it, if you look in there, it's called ancillary services, so we're kind of asking them, and we recognize in the course of studying this, something may pop up and we go, oh, that's a great idea. That wasn't necessarily on our radar, but let's look at that, so we did try to build that flexibility in.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you too.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next presentation, which is item 780. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This item is the final plans and specifications for the lower park. And we have Mary Margaret Jones with us here with Hargraves to give us a presentation on this exciting project.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome back, Mary Margaret.
Thank you. At long last, we are here to approve the plans and specifications for Lower Park so it can go to bid. I believe there should be a presentation coming up. Does anyone see your presentation?
Francis, are you aware of this? Something we need to see on the screen, I guess.
Yes, I believe Carrie Medley Lee.
I believe Carrie was going to progress the slides.
Greg, do you know anything about it?
Can you hear me?
There's Carrie. Can you
Carrie, are you able to share your screen?
There we go.
Yay. Otherwise, I would be painting pictures with my hands and words. Done it before, but not ideal. Okay, go ahead and go to the agenda, Carrie. So I'll take you through the map.
Make me a host.
Oh. Okay, well, all's well now. So I'll quickly go through the master plan and then the design of the lower park and some of the features, and then conclude with the costs and the schedule. I know you have a full agenda today, so we'll keep this brief, but of course, feel free to ask questions. So the lower park will, at long last, realize the long-held dream of core to shore. So Upper Park, as you all know, 38 acres, Lower Park 28 acres, and extends to Southwest 15th Street. Next. This is the cover page of our bid document set, our construction drawings, which is a 382 sheet set. So even though Lower Park is more natural in character than Upper Park, nonetheless, there's a lot of work that goes into those 28 acres. Next. So there is a base bid, and I'll take you quickly through what's in the base bid, and then I will take you what are in the bid alternates. So everybody fingers crossed for a good bidding climate. Okay, Lower Park base bid. Starting in the upper left hand, I'll describe what we call the panhandle. So at the upper left, we have one artificial turf soccer field and one natural grass play field. Next to that, we have a sports pavilion, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. Then we have a woodland area with a lot of these, there were actually some existing trees, able to say. So there's a woodland area. and trails, pathways through that woodland area, and Scissortail Park ramps. Skydance Bridge slopes down and connects to that woodland park. And Skydance Bridge also slopes down and connects to a continuation of the promenade that in the base bid goes to 14th Street. On either side of that slope down from Skydance Bridge is a cottonwood forest and a whispering pines forest. Then moving south, we have sports courts. Then continuing to move south, we have two areas that we're basically touching very little. The hollow area and the fields area in this base bid are pretty much just cleared, graded, and grass is planted. But then we get at Southwest 14th Street, we get to what we call Knuckle Plaza. And Knuckle Plaza is an important sort of termination of the promenade. And everybody remember the promenade extends all the way from the corner of Robinson and the Boulevard. So the promenade really is a continuing thread all the way to this Knuckle Plaza. And then we terminate the park with the Overlook Hill. And the Overlook Hill is important because it at long last gives you a view of the river from the park and also sets up a place for performance audience to view performances that might happen on the lawn or on Knuckle Plaza. Next. So add alternates, and these are not in any particular order of importance. But again, starting up at the upper left-hand corner, the soccer field lighting, fences, and equipment for the artificial turf soccer field are an add alternate. The two shade structures directly adjacent to it, parallel to the soccer field, are also add alternates. Within that woodland area that I described, we will, with this add alternate, hopefully add some nature play elements. These are places of discovery and play that are made from natural elements, hedges, sand, hills, berms, trees made into domes, etc. Then continuing down, the sports court, again, lighting, fences, and equipment are an add alternate. Then continuing to those two blocks, we would do something in those with the woodland trail. The pink wavy line is a woodland trail through the hollow and the fields area, along which there would be lighting and furniture, places to sit. So a destination within those two blocks. And then the Hill Pavilion is the building at the corner of 14th and Robinson that would be restrooms and concessions, or ability for concessions next to this important place. And then finally, number 7 is the extension of the promenade from 14th Street to 15th Street. And though it's listed as number 7, it's probably the most important because that's what gets us ostensibly or close to the river. Next. This is looking at the soccer field. In the background, you see the shade structures that would be an add alternate. And the lower left, you see a view from the sports pavilion, which is in the base bid, looking across the woodland lawn area. Next. This is looking down the sports pavilion, which is in the base bid, soccer field beyond that, and then all the trees plus new ones, the existing trees plus new ones in the woodland. Next. And then this is a plan of that potential add alternate bid nature play area. And you can see it's really just winding paths, trees, sand area, lawn area, hills to run up and down, hedges that make places to discover, a dome made of trees, and tunnels made of hedges, etc. And you see the cottonwood forest and the whispering pines forest. Next. And this is a view looking down on that area. And you see the slope coming down from Skydance Bridge. Next. A view in the Whispering Pines. So as you come down Skydance Bridge, you go through this sort of natural meadow and a lot of sound of the grasses and the pines and the breezes and the winds. Next. And the promenade. And this view looks familiar, should look familiar because it's a continuation of the design from the upper part. Next. The hollow area, now this shows including the ad alternate of the meandering path and the planting within the hollow. Next. And those are rain gardens, by the way, where we're collecting rainwater on the site. And then looking down on that fields area. So again, a winding path, places to sit, a hedge to create outdoor rooms, and creating more of a place within the fields, which again is an ad alternate. And in the background, you see the Hill Pavilion, also at an ad alternate. You see the Overlook Hill also, which is in the basement. Next. And then here is the Overlook Hill, again, giving one enough height to actually see the river over the levee of the river, and also for audience to gather to watch performances on the lawn. Notice the art, we're showing a placeholder for art. This would be the next public art location. So for the upper and lower park, it'll be like bookends. The art that will hopefully soon be realized in the upper park at Robinson Boulevard will be bookended with a piece of art in what we call Knuckle Plaza next to hopefully the Hill Pavilion. Next. So looking, and you can see the arrows. So we're looking from Southwest 15th northward, and you see that Knuckle Plaza and Hill Pavilion and future art site placeholder there. Next. Now we're looking from Robinson. So as if we've walked down Robinson and we've turned into the park. Hill Pavilion on the right, and you see the hill in the background on the left, Overlook Hill. Next. And now looking south on the promenade. So this is the view that you will see coming down the promenade. So you come all the way from downtown, you're headed for the river, and you see the sculpture in the hill and then the continuation to the river. Next. And finally, looking from the west into the park. From hopefully future development, activating this edge of the park. Next. Now, we wanted to put in this image just to assure everyone that we've taken a look at, of course, the specs that are going out, the plans and specs that are going out are for what's within the red outline, the lower site, the lower park proper. That's the MAPS 3 limit of work. But we were asked by you all to take a look at the connection to the river's edge as well, to make sure we were designing something that would then facilitate a very good, active, dynamic future connection to the river park. So this shows that extension of the promenade as a pier out over the river. It shows dashed in white the potential future pedestrian bridge across the river that many would like to see happen. And then it shows a reimagined shoreline to a natural shoreline with outdoor gathering spaces, parking along Southwest 15th. And finally, in the ultimate future, a full core to shore park. Next. So just to assure you that the materials in the lower park will be consistent with the upper park, from lighting and planting to furniture and paving. Next. And a few details on the sports pavilion. The sports pavilion will be in architectural character with the pieces of architecture, the structures that are in the upper park. Also, of course, designed by Hans Butzer and Tori Butzer. Next. And the sports pavilion includes concessions and restrooms, as well as storage and sports equipment, storage for sports equipment, as well as storage for the park itself. And then, as with all the structures in the park, upper and lower, as much outdoor space, shaded space, as indoor space. All important. Next. And a view underneath the sports pavilion. Again, creating shade and views at the same time without obstructing views. And the other elevation. Next. Now the Hill Pavilion is smaller And this would be at 14th and Robinson at the base of the Overlook Hill next to Knuckle Plaza. And it is mostly restrooms, storage and support for the park, garbage, for instance, enclosed so that garbage can be enclosed, and electrical equipment so it can be enclosed, and then a lot of outdoor seating. Next. And building materials will be consistent with Upper Park. Although I will know that the metal panels on the buildings, it will be a different material so that we can avoid the oil canning that has happened in the Upper Park. Lessons learned there. Next. So in conclusion, base bid is, we hope, should be within the budget, the $20 million budget. The ad alternates equal about $4.5 million. I will note two things. One, the $20 million base bid is about $28 a square foot. And I will note for you that the Upper Park is about $36 a square foot. So Lower Park is much more cost efficient, which it works to some degree because it's a more natural, simpler, less highly programmed park, but nonetheless, a tight budget. So just keep that in mind. And also to note that these $4.5 million in ad alternates, that's essentially equal to the $4 million that we took out of Lower Park to pay for additional items desired in Upper Park. So now, of course, we are short by that $4 million for what would be an optimal realization of the Lower Parks. So again, as I started this, we pray for a good bidding environment. Next. So here we are. We are here to get final approval on final plans and specs so we can go to bid and start construction this year and open this park in full in 2022. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Mary Margaret, and this may be for you, it may be for David Todd. How does the MAPS 3 excess funds that we allocated for the purpose of extending the park all the way to the river play into this? Has that been added to this budget yet? And I recognize that when we did that, we did not specify how much would go to Union Station and how much would go to that Lower Park project. We left that to the subcommittee and the advisory board. Anyone have a take on that?
Mayor, I can tell you that right now the budget that Mary Margaret has shown is just the original MAPS Lower Park money, and that 19 million is still setting out separate for Union Station.
David Todd, we can't hear you, buddy. Sorry.
Oh, I can barely hear him. You're not muted, David, but you are very, very, yeah. You were unmuted, but it was very low level of volume. Yeah, maybe just talk louder.
I'll try to talk a little louder. Is that any better?
Slightly. I can hear you. You can't hear him at all, James?
I mean, I can hear him, but it's very low. I can't.
All right. Just talk loud, David, I guess.
Okay, I'll talk loud. The budget that we're looking at right now is only with the original money that was set up for the Lower Park. It does not anticipate using any of that $19 million.
Okay, and for anyone who couldn't hear that, I'll just repeat. The money from the MAP 3 excess funds that was allocated to Scissortail Park has not been added to this budget. So there's potential for a little bit of growth in the budget that Mary Margaret just presented, because we did specify we wanted some of that $19 million to go to the Lower Park connection to the river. And I assume you know that, Mary Margaret, that's a possibility out there.
I think I knew that. I'm really glad. I do want to sort of just make sure everybody understands that the Lower Park plans and specifications go to 15th Street. The project that then would go from 15th Street to the very, edge of the river banks, is outside of the MAPS project. But let's at least get to 15th Street, because then you get to the existing. So yes,
Yeah.
at least
I think the intent of the excess fund allocation was to go from 15th to the river. I think it was to add on to the to the scope of the project. That was my understanding. Is that correct, David? Was that your understanding as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, we did that a few months ago. And it's entirely possible that that news didn't quite reach you, Mary Margaret, but yes, it is contemplated. In fact, more than contemplated. The only nebulous aspect of it is that we set aside this amount of money. David says it's 19. I'll trust that that's correct. I forget now, but it was $19 million, and it said it was for the purposes of refurbishing Union Station and extending the park from 15th Street to the river, something to that effect. But there was not a allocation amongst those two projects. I think it was understood most of it would go to Union Station, but it was not specified, if I remember. Is that correct, David?
Yes, sir. And that's why you see the alternates in there is that we tried to stay within the original budget, knowing that there is some other out there that could be allocated at council's will. And then we have that list of alternates that we can choose how we might want to spend that.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry to muddy the waters on this, but I'm glad we've made that connection for you, Mary Margaret, so you know that's going on too.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
So am I hearing correctly that the money we allocated a few months ago from the excess MAPS 3 collections could not just this 15th to the river, but could help with the add alternates too? Am I hearing that correctly?
I think the intent really was the additional funds. One, like Mayor pointed out, was for the Union Station, but then that connection that's from the bottom of that lower part, kind of that area that Mary Margaret showed, that's below the red outline area, where the development would be making that connection from 15th Street down to the river, was really more of what that was intended to do. It was intended to make that connection.
Right, but then the add alternates, like I know we're hoping for a inviting bid environment, but is any of the, yeah, go ahead.
That would be within the budget, within the MAPS budget, not the excess funds. Those are two separate issues. The extension in that connection would be the excess funds. The portion that's up in the red portion that's outlined, that's on the screen now, would all be within the MAPS budget that she had outlined originally.
Yeah, I understand that, but then the add alternates.
Right. If you get positive bids, if we get good bids and we're able to put more of the add alternates in, that would still be within that budget, is what we're contemplating.
And let's say we don't have a pleasant bid environment, we're not anticipating looking at any of the excess MAPS 3 funds to go toward those add alternates, but instead from 15th to the river, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Just want to make sure I was understanding all of that.
So I feel like I still don't fully understand. So are we saying that, because I'm understanding the budget is 20.5 million, but the add alternates are 4.5. So are we saying that we would hope that we would get bids that somehow wouldn't equal $4.5 million and somehow would fit into that 20.5?
That would be the intent, is that when you go out like that, you're building it within your base, you're hoping for a positive environment. And, Mary Margaret laid out the projects that we could put in there. Generally, when you do add alternates like this, it's not likely you're going to get all of those in there. And there's kind of a priority working with staff and the designers and with the subcommittee of what those projects would be that would be added in if we're in a positive bid environment.
So we're saying if the bids for just the base stuff came in lower than we expect. Okay, that helps tie that loop. So, and sort of relatedly, I'm curious what, if any, community engagement, whether it was the designers or the subcommittee, had on the design of the lower park. Because I know in particular, obviously there's the Latino Community Development Agency, but it's not a huge number of residents that live in those neighborhoods in the gray area, but there's a number of folks that live in that and just adjacent. And I'm just curious what, if any, sort of neighborhood engagement took place for all of this, since this is a little bit before my time.
Yes, indeed. The public engagement goes back, has been ongoing for a number of years. So there were open public meetings to which everyone was invited. We also had quite a few stakeholder meetings with groups such as the Latino Community Development Agency. You may remember at one time Manny Perez Park was west of us, and we spent a lot of time with them and their constituents who are the neighbors of this park. So we spent a lot of time with people over a number of years, with people who both live near here and people who are active near here, like the Community Development Agency, and people who want to see more activity in this area, and then people who just in general want the city to, make that corridor shore.
Sure. Because I guess I would just have one disagreement with you that the most important ad alternate to prioritize would be that promenade. Honestly, from talking with folks in that area, I think the lighting and equipment at the soccer field is probably most important. I get a regular amount of complaints about over at Wheeler Park, the fact that, and there's not formal soccer fields, but there are some goals and things set up, and the inability to play after dark is a consistent thing I hear from the community in that area. So just the fact that this is just kind of a stone's throw from that area, I could imagine that this could be a pretty popular place to come play soccer. And so having that equipment, I think it could really activate that space in a way that I think you would probably have like way more demand than you could keep up with. But I think in my mind, that's a pretty good problem to have. So just wanted to add that little bit of information that I've heard.
Good point. Thank you.
I would want to echo that. I've had a lot of folk, as a former Southside middle school teacher, I have a lot of folk who talk to me about the lighting for their kiddos in soccer. And then I hear it from, I have Ward 2 constituents who work with youth on the South Side, and lighting is it's a top of mind concern, actually, is what I would say. So anything we can do to address lighting for our students, I think that would be very, very helpful. So maybe pass that along to the subcommittee. Is that the process, Craig, here? Okay, yeah, if we can just pass that along to them, because I just think that's a very functional ask that they've had from, like I said, for me, and I know Councilwoman Hammond's hearing it too. And I'm pretty sure, I feel like Councilman Stone and I think we've been around each other whenever people have mentioned lighting. I don't know, Todd, is that something you hear as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think lighting is important in any of these major parks for sure.
Thanks.
And I would also add that the two shade pavilions, which would also be directly adjacent to that soccer field, which will also be lit at night, are a major amenity, which are also an ad alternate. So yeah, there's a number of very important ad alternates. So again, knock on wood.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mary Margaret? I don't know if everybody knows that Mary Margaret has been on this project since it was merely conceptual and under the stewardship of the Corridor Shore Task Force circa 2006, 2007. So this has certainly been a long time labor of love for you, Mary Margaret. Thank you.
Absolutely. I feel like I've grown up with Oklahoma City.
All right. Well, no other questions or comments on this item. Then we will move on to AS. And I believe there's a presentation on this, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. This is an item that's in agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, with the police department and some of the work that we're doing. And I appreciate Chief Gorley. I asked him to make a few comments on this. Appreciate his leadership in this relationship and continuing this this important relationship.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and good morning, everyone. Wade Gorley, Chief of Police. This is a continuation of a grant that Oklahoma Department of Mental Health has received. And this started back in 2016 when they asked us to come on board with them to provide a law enforcement liaison for this program, which we did assign one of our CIT officers, Lori Osborne. I'll talk a little bit more about her later and her role in this. This grant, again, began in 2016. It expires this year. It was a 4-year grant. This is a continuation that the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health has applied for. And as part of that, they want to continue that partnership with us. Just to give you some idea of what the grant targets and what the program is about, is it started a process in place to interact with those individuals that were more likely to be law enforcement involved, and take away not only resources in responding to mental health calls, but also having them in the criminal justice system as well. So these individuals that were targeted and identified the Department of Mental Health were placed on what was called an it's what it is currently called an assisted outpatient treatment order. These tend to be individuals, again, who have more contact with law enforcement and be more criminal justice involved. Since beginning the original agreement with the Department of Mental Health, there have been 63, we'll call them AOT orders, assisted outpatient treatment orders. Before the AOT was launched, those 63 individuals accounted for a total of 274 arrests in OKC from calendar year 2016 until they were ordered in the program as part of this, this grant service that we're doing. While in the program, those same 63 accounted for only 64 arrests during the course of their effective AOT order. And these orders can vary in time frame. A lot of them are based on, how well the individuals respond, to where they can get off the order. Sometimes they have to be on a little bit longer, and sometimes they require a little bit more effort. Just to look at some of the calls and the other situations that these individuals accounted for, just to put it in perspective, these 63 also accounted for 357 mental health interventions by OCPD prior to being placed in the program. While they were in the AOT program, those same 63 accounted for only 99 mental health interventions. 4 of them did end up incarcerated as part of the program. That's not quite following through, but that's still a small amount based on what we were dealing with before. On the other side of that, some success stories. There's been 1 person graduate from college, 1 regain custody of her children, and 1 who had no less than 15 arrests per year prior to the AOT, but now has had 0 police interactions in the last 2 years. Because of the AOT program, many habitual consumers have been given the support they needed to live a more authentic life and productive life. This resulted in far less police interactions and hospitalizations. I'll give you a quote that comes from Sergeant Osborne that she provided to me as part of this and wanted you guys to know. She said, "I found that the individuals we deal with appreciate the positive interaction they have with me as a police officer. I'm Officer Lori to all of them, and I feel this has helped them see police as an ally in their journey to recovery." So we're really hopeful that as this program continues, we'll just be able to reach more individuals and have more success. I believe it's a great partnership. Sergeant Osborne does actually office in the office buildings with Department of Mental Health. So the workers that she goes out with, they know her, they're comfortable with her, and she's very good at her job. She's a very good and committed CIT officer, and we're very lucky to have her over there working as part of this program. So I'll try to answer any questions if you have them, if I can.
Any questions for Chief?
I wanted to say real quickly, the CIT program I think is huge. And Chief, again, just thanks for what you and your staff and all of our officers do every day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you as well. All right. That concludes the items that we had called out for presentations or separate discussion. If there's nothing else that anybody else wishes to talk about, hearing none, we'll take a motion. Yeah, go ahead.
This is David Greenwell.
Yes.
Just one comment in regards to the negotiation with respect to the Cox Center.
Yes.
I know this is just the preliminary approach, but my concern is many times when we see private-public joint ventures, the public tends to take a lot of the risk and the private side has all the upside on this. So I would encourage our staff to keep that in mind and make sure we divide both the risk and the potential upside in an equitable manner. And then secondly, it's great to hear that the state has such great interest in this proposal. They tend to get 3, usually 4 times the revenue from any type of economic activity in the state, since they their sources of revenues include income tax, both individuals and businesses, property taxes, if there should be any opportunities for that, payroll taxes, as well as sales tax. So yeah, the state has a much greater benefit from these types of activities, and I hope they keep that in mind. Should there be cost requirements to allow this proposal to go forward, that they're willing to participate in it as well as us. So just my only comments. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilman. You know, I think I think everything you said is great, and I think it also brings to light what makes this project so exciting. One of the reasons that make this project exciting is the fact that one of our biggest risks, I guess, as a city that we're bringing to the table is this massive building. And under any normal circumstances, that would be our contribution to the project, and we would have made an investment in this building. But now we don't need it really. It's sort of like we're bringing something of value to the table that doesn't really cost us anything and would under any other circumstance. And that's what I think is kind of a win-win for us here. That's my take, is the biggest investment we're bringing to this project is something that is of value to the initiative creators, but is of no real value to us right now. In fact, using it for something kind of takes a load off of us. So it's an interesting moment in time that I think we've captured here. I hope it all works out. Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I would agree with that. Hopefully there won't be much additional costs in getting the facility to a point where they can begin using it.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, if that's all to be said about the consent docket, we can now consider a motion to adopt it, understanding that one of the items was previously amended and one of the items was previously struck. But otherwise, this is adoption of the consent docket. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. Now we have item 8, the concurrence docket. This is, wait, there's nothing on the concurrence docket? That's a first. Okay. There is no concurrence docket this week, but we do have item 9, items requiring separate votes. We have 9A. These were ordinances on final hearing approved by or recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. Item 9A1 is at 223 Northwest 97th Street, going from R1 and PUD 130 to I1, I2, and O2. Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, I'm sure the applicant or the representative for the applicant is present. So if we'll just explain again what we're doing with this property, please.
Yes, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. My client owns most of the property in this area outside of the subject rezoning, and he, throughout the years, him and his company have been able to acquire the various parcels that now make up this application. When we originally filed it, it was for all I2. At the time before Planning Commission, staff did request that we modify one of the pieces to I1 and then some of the pieces to O2. We did agree to that. We worked with Kamal Pennington, who is the Ward 7 Planning Commission member, to accomplish this. And we do have a significant number of support letters that are in your packet. And so with the modifications, it is recommended for approval by staff and is coming to you with a unanimous recommendation for approval by Planning Commission.
Okay. All right, thank you. With that, I will move for approval when it shows up.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. 9A2 is at 3931 Northwest 8th Street, going from R1 to SPUD 1232. This was deferred from September 1st. Councilman McAtee. Is Councilman McAtee on the line? Yeah. Larry, are you there? Oh, you're muted, Larry. Still muted. Can we unmute him? I'm told you need to unmute yourself, Larry. Okay, IT's heading down there. There you are, Larry.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Sorry for the delay. Yes, is Stephen present?
I don't know. No one signed up to. Oh, wait. Maybe they have. Yes, Wilmer Gutierrez.
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, he was here. He's with his wife in the hospital and he didn't know how long he could hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
But
that.
he was here.
Okay. Well, he was here, Larry, but he's obviously got a family emergency and may have stepped out.
Can we move for a 2-week deferral, please, David?
Okay. Councilman McAtee would like to move for a deferral. The motion is on the screen if anyone wants to make it. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. There you are. Councilman Greenwell, or have you voted?
He is not at his desk.
Okay, and then we can just move on. Okay. All right, passes unanimously. Okay. 9, that item is deferred for 2 weeks. Item 9B, ordinances on final hearing that were recommended for approval. 9B1 is to close and vacate a deed restriction adjacent to 7 Santa Fe Plaza. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yes, I had wanted to get in touch with JJ to talk more about this, but just didn't have time before today's meeting. And I just wondered if you could hop on and kind of describe these 2 items and kind of what the purpose and process has been.
This is Bob.
JJ.
Sorry, Francis.
JJ is unmuted.
Either JJ or Bob, whoever knows. I just saw JJ's name on the application, so.
This is Bob Teener, Development Services Director. These 2 items are just some clarification on the Santa Fe parking garage, the transactions. There were some issues about the right-of-way on the elevator towers, and this just clears that up. So for the transaction to sell the property.
Yeah, Wiley Williams is also on the line. Wiley's been working on this with us as we work through this transaction. Wiley, are you still on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, these are requirements that came with the sale of the parking garage by COPTA. There were some old deeds that were done when the land was transferred from Ocura to the city that put some deed restrictions on what the property could be used for.
and the new purchaser would like to have those removed. It doesn't have any impact long-term. They really relate to public access to what will be now private property. And of course, the public will still be able to use it because some of the property that's being transferred to the purchaser is a little strip of land that runs along the UCO lease space in the parking garage, and the public will still have to use that. It's not foreclosing it, but it's just cleaning up the deed so that the new purchaser has a cleaner deed.
Okay, that is super helpful. I appreciate that. So I will motion for approval when it shows up on the screen.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
And then for B2, I will do the same. I'll motion for approval since it's this just a different spot on that property that we're addressing.
Okay. This is for item 9B2. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9B3 was previously deferred, which brings us to item 9B4, which is to close portions of Granada Boulevard, Parkway, and Northeast 29th Street of the Lion Second Edition. Councilwoman Knight.
Yes, I know this is for us to work through the development that is taking place with the Housing Authority. So with that, for approval when the screen shows.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9B5 is to close a portion of South Ollie Avenue, south of Southwest 6th. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yes, then actually the next series for me is, I think it's the next four are all related to a similar applicant. Essentially the railroad is trying to close some easements that are no longer required or needed by them. So I will motion for approval.
Okay, this will be for item 9B5. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Councilwoman 9B6.
I will motion for approval. Oh, I guess I'm muted. No, I'm not.
There we go. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes for 9B6. Passes unanimously. Now 9B7.
I will motion for approval as well.
Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And finally, 9B8.
I will motion for approval as well.
Cast your votes.
Councilwoman Hammond, as we're waiting for that vote total, I was just for my own clarification, back on B2 with the Santa Fe Plaza, on the memo, was it clarified for us, like under purpose, where it says closing and vacating this deed restriction will allow the area to be conveyed to the, and then it just stops? I'm guessing that also means that it's being conveyed to the owners of the parking garage based on what we just heard and what the B1 memo says, but on B2 it just like blinks out.
Yeah, I think that might be a typo of some sort. See on B2.
Why don't we close this vote? I mean, this is an unrelated topic. Have you voted yet, Councilman Cooper?
Oh, thought I did. Sorry, I thought we were waiting on everybody else. Forgive me.
All right, that item passes unanimously. Bob or anyone, you want to address this question about a potential typo on a previous item? I believe it was 9B2 you were asking about, Councilman Cooper.
Yes, it was just an omission. In the staff report, it's the same as the first one, the same conveyed to the owner. But it doesn't have any legal effect. That's just for your information on the staff.
That's just on the staff report.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good then. Moving on to item 9C, ordinance on final hearing. So this is the third of 3 meetings where we have considered this potential ordinance change relating to drainage and flood control. We had a presentation, then a public hearing, and then today is potential final consideration. Does anybody have anything to say, or would they rather just make a motion? All right, looks like we've got a motion and a second for passage. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9D is an ordinance on final hearing, or ordinances on final hearing. These look to be from the Traffic Commission. We've got 9D1 is establishing a no parking anytime restriction on the east side of North Quapaw Avenue from Northwest 22nd to Northwest 23rd. Councilman McAtee.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Is the applicant here? I don't believe so. This is ingress and egress into a neighborhood based on some new construction that's going on. I move for approval.
Okay. Let's do that virtually now. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9D2 is establishing a weekday parking restriction on the north side of East Park Place from North Lottie to 150 feet east of the east curb line of North Lottie, effective from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, as I said in our previous meeting, this is what groundwork from community and neighbors looks like. So they had a petition, they signed it, and they did mention how there was a lot of parking during the day that was keeping them from being able to park in their own area. So with that, I'll move for approval.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, items 9E1, 9E2, and 9F are all related to the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. We'll start with 9E1. This is I'm told we already received a presentation on this topic. So this is the public hearing regarding the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing? No. Okay, no one having signed up to speak. We'll move on beyond the public hearing now to item 9E2, which is a resolution adopting and confirming an assessment role for the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. Open to any comments, questions, or even a motion.
I'd like to move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then 9F is an ordinance on final hearing adopting and ratifying the assessment role for the Stockyard City Business Improvement District. If there are no comments here, we could also just proceed to a motion. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 9G1, this is the public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed, except for those struck at the beginning of the meeting. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing? No one has, so we will move on to 9G2, which is the resolution declaring that the structures are dilapidated.
Mayor,
Yes.
I wanted to defer G1B as in boy for, I want to defer that for 1 month. I know the owners of the property do have a contract to take care of this, but I just want to ensure that I just want to protect them in the process.
Okay, all right, so we will take first a motion to defer this item for 2 meetings. What date would that be, Francis?
October 13th or October 25th?
I get October 13th is what she requested, yeah. So this will be deferred to October 13th, okay? So we've got a motion for a deferral. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes as soon as it's opened up. There you go. Passes unanimously. That brings us back to the resolution at 9G2, declaring that the remaining structures are dilapidated. We can take a motion on that. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 9H1 is a public hearing regarding a dilapidated structure listed here in the Capital Medical Improvement and Zoning District. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak on this item? No. All right. Hearing that no one has signed up to speak under this public hearing, would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution found at 9H2 declaring the structure to be dilapidated. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9I1 is the public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed, except for those struck at the beginning of the meeting. Is there anyone, Francis, who has signed up to speak under this public hearing? No one having signed up to speak, we would entertain a motion for adoption of the resolution found at 9I2 declaring that the structures are unsecured. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Before we proceed to the public hearing at 9J1, I'm guessing Councilwoman Nice, you'd like to make a motion to defer item 9J1D to October 13th.
Yes, please.
Let's bring that up. Deferral motion for item 9J1D. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now back to the remaining items found at 9J1. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing? They have not. And so we will proceed to item 9J2, which is the resolution declaring that the buildings are abandoned. Would anybody like to make that motion? Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman Stonecipher, have you voted? There we go. Passes unanimously. Okay, 9K1 and 2 are related. We had a presentation on this allocation of general obligation limited tax proceeds in the amount of $275,000 to Skydweller Aero Inc. There was a presentation on this at a previous meeting. Item 9K1 is a public hearing regarding the joint resolution approving the allocation. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak? No. They have not. So we will close the public hearing and then proceed to 9K2, the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. Are there any comments, questions, or motions? All right, looks like we'll proceed to motions. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. for item 9K2? Passes 7-1. 9L is a resolution setting a public hearing date of September 29th, 2020 for a proposed amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget. And I believe we have a presentation here, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Lindsay, she's in the works in the budget office, the budget director, and she's going to give us an overview. This is basically a budget amendment that's an administrative process that we go through each year where we roll encumbrances from the previous year into the current budget. I'll let Lindsay take us through that.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is Lindsay McNabb, the Assistant Budget Director. The budget amendment presented this morning is administrative in nature and only includes a budget increase for the purchase order rollover. What this covers is items that were ordered last fiscal year but not received until the current year. Since the funds were reserved last year but not spent, our fund balance at the end of the year was higher, and we're simply budgeting those funds in the current year, so this does not take away from the department's previously approved budget. The PO rollover today affects 11 funds and totals $3,898,240. This increase brings the FY21 budget total to $1,662,303,978. The amendment is introduced today. It will be advertised and we will have a public hearing at the next council meeting on September 29th. And council will then vote on the adoption of the amendment at that same meeting. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments for staff regarding this resolution? Okay, hearing none. This is just a resolution to set the public hearing date of September 29th for this proposed amendment. It's not final adoption. We can take a motion in a second, which we have. Let's cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 9M1 is a resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Major David Fields while he continues to require rehabilitation. I don't believe we need executive session. We could take a motion for adoption. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we're at 9N1, a resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Sergeant Christopher Sheorn while he continues to require rehabilitation. Don't believe we need executive session. We could take a motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 901 is a resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Corporal Christopher Seitz while he continues to require rehabilitation. Don't believe we need executive session. You can take a motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9P was previously struck at the beginning of the meeting, which brings us to item 9Q. This is to enter into executive session on advice of the municipal counselor to receive confidential communications from its attorney regarding the case of McGraw v. City of OKC. We'll probably handle this after other business, but we could take the vote now to enter into executive session. So we'll entertain a motion to that effect. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. As I said, we'll handle that after our other business, which brings us to 9R1, claims recommended for denial. Don't believe we need executive session. We can take a motion here. waiting on my screen. Is anybody else having better luck?
Same thing.
Same.
Okay. Francis, we're so close. This is the last vote of the day. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's take verbal motions then.
Yeah.
Or we're going to try one more time. Hold on. There you go.
There we go.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. That brings us to item 10, items from council. There are no listed items, so we'll just go around the horseshoe for comments. Ward 1.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
All right. Ward 2.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you to city staff for inviting me to them, providing maps for our people this weekend. I Saturday morning attended an event at Wiley Post Park, and I'm to understand that from 9 to 10 they had a line stretched, I mean, just along the park, people in their vehicles who were waiting to receive food delivery and or mask. And then when I got there from 10 to 11, it was a pretty steady crowd as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that invite. Thanks to everyone who took time to be there that morning. There were even a couple Ward 2 residents who were there as well. So just wanted to say thank you to them. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Ward 3.
Nothing today, Your Honor.
All right. Ward 4.
I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
Ward 5.
No, thanks.
Ward 6.
Nothing today.
All right. Ward 7.
Yes, I do want to say I have a couple things. First, do want to acknowledge September as Suicide Prevention Month. And I know, especially with everything that's happening now during the pandemic and just in general of just the heaviness of our society right now, that obviously this is the best time to talk about suicide prevention, and to know for folks to understand and to call the lifeline if they do feel they need someone to talk to about what's going on, and just to express their thoughts. So I do want to give the number. It's 1-800-273-8255. And you can also call 211, and there's always a listening ear for you. So I just wanted to make mention of that. I do know, to Council Person Cooper's point, that at Northeast High School this coming Saturday, there will be masks be given away from 9 until 11. So we're hoping that our communities will come out and just receive for someone if they know can use them. If they or their families can use them themselves, that'd be great. But if you know someone else that could benefit from these masks, we ask you to please come and receive. And also with that, we will continue to give away masks to those who come and want to receive them at our voter registration and census information community events that we're having. So I'll say last week, we kicked it off on Tuesday last week, and we'll be there every Tuesday of this month. We'll be located in the area of 36 and Kelly. We're setting up our tables right next to the Dollar Tree location. There's a lot of traffic that comes in there in that area. So we want to make sure we get people registered. We will have census workers, and we've had quite a few people stop and get counted. And that's the most important part of this. We have trillions of dollars that will be coming down from the federal government. And this is a time for our state and local municipalities and residents to be able to benefit, to rebuild, especially a lot of our areas that have been undercounted. We need that money to go to our communities, and we've been able to see also the impacts of not having those resources with this pandemic and what it has brought to our communities as well. So we're thankful. I just want to give just a testimony as far as our voter registration. This past Sunday, we were in the area of Northeast 23rd and Spencer Road. And a gentleman came, he said, I came just to get registered to vote. And obviously he had questions, but he wasn't sure if he would be able to get registered because he had a felony. And we asked him, when was that felony? And he said he had a charge in 1989, and he had a 3-year suspended sentence. And he's been eligible to vote since 1992. So we got him registered on Sunday. So that's the importance of having these types of events in our community. So we're thankful that people are receiving the information and at least coming to ask the questions, so we can ensure that we're working on their behalf to get them the information, to get them empowered with the information, and for them to move forward with the next steps. And also thank you to our churches. On this past Sunday, there was a community-wide registration for different churches and different businesses and nonprofits in our community as well. I wanted to again talk about the Prairie Surf Media, and I thank Councilperson Cooper for those questions, because those were the questions I had asked to them in my meeting about job opportunities and what these jobs look like, and also the connection of our young people being able to be engaged in this process when we are able to get it kicked off, and they are more than willing to do that. So I think that's the most important part of this. And also, to our community or our city who does not know already, we have the Green Pasture Studios in Ward 7. So we'll have now 2 studios in the area of Ward 7. So I think we can say Ward 7 is now going to be the entertainment for our city, if nothing else. And we're excited about the possibility of that. And speaking of just an area that's not far from that, this Saturday, the River Sport area presented by Black Space Oklahoma, they'll be doing a showing of A Most Beautiful Thing. And it's a documentary that is narrated by Common, and it talks about the rowing aspect for our inner cities. And this is a story that came out of Chicago. So we're excited about what this is going to bring. I was going to say you can sign up, but if you go to Black Space, it says it's sold out. So that means that we're going to have a lot of folks that will be able to view this, and maybe hopefully if we can get with Black Space, we'll be able to just do this showing and preview it again for those who may have missed out. And even with Bricktown, I know last week they had a drive-in movie. So this is just the time to reinvent how we look at our spaces. And obviously with our parklets that we voted on, we understand that's on the horizon. And I'll say also a couple other things. The mayor and I, we were able to welcome in and kick off the grand opening and ribbon cutting for Camp Trevera, which is with the Girl Scouts. And I'm telling you, if you get a chance to just go look at this space, you will not be disappointed. We are so excited for these young ladies and for our community that will also be able to benefit from Camp Trevera and what it brings in the STEM classes, the camping, all of this literally right across the street in the area of the Adventure District and the zoo. And so they're working right now to put a zip line in where the ladies or whoever is going to be a part of this can zip line from Camp Trevera to the back end of the zoo. So there's just that connection piece of being able to present all of these areas. And I want to give a special shout out to a couple of young ladies with the Girl Scouts that we were able to meet and get tours from. Olivia, and I know Miss Carson was one of the other young ladies that we were able to meet. So I know, Mayor, we share in the sentiment that we are truly excited about what this is bringing to our community, especially to the Adventure District, for young ladies to camp in our city instead of having to go far out to another area of the state. Now it's truly directly impacting our city and the Adventure District. So there is a food giveaway. I'll leave with this food giveaway with Lynn Institute 3:30 to 5:30 at Metro Tech today for those who may need that information. And I want to say that we are truly excited, and I know this is in Councilwoman Hammond's district, for the post office downtown that is now renamed after the legend and the legacy of Miss Clara Looper. So I think we're all excited, especially about the Freedom Center that we're talking about with MAPS 4 and what that brings, and also the display that we're going to have, the statue to remember her legacy with those young people. So this is truly an inspiration to have this kind of conversation on our federal level with our Congresswoman heading this effort, and now people all over this country speaking the name of Clara Looper and what she was able to do for not only Oklahoma City, but introduce the impacts of her work to our country. So we are grateful for what she has done for us, and the impact of now saying we're going to the Clara Looper post office downtown. So I'll leave with that. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Ward 8.
Briefly, Your Honor, I want to remind everyone to please take the time to fill out your census forms. Time is running out. It ensures that the state of Oklahoma is adequately represented. It doesn't take too long to fill out the form, so please fill it out. Thank you.
Indeed. Okay.
Let me correct myself too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We went through those first steps. I understand we got to go through the Senate level now. So I don't think we'll have a problem passing that through Senate, although I'll keep my fingers crossed, but we might as well just speak it into existence, or else, that's how you have to do it. You have to speak it into existence. So we're looking forward to visiting as soon as it goes through the proper channels of visiting the Clara Looper post office downtown.
Indeed. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
And this is to the rest of the council. I have a request, and just let me know ahead of time if you all aren't okay with it. But I'm wondering, there was a vote I took earlier that I don't know why I clicked yes on it, and it passed. And I'm wondering if I could request to make a motion to rescind that vote, and then we would vote on it again. It wouldn't put it up for, it's not a divisive vote, like it would still pass, but I would like to be on the record saying no to it. I'm wondering if the other council members would be amenable to that.
And what item is that, Councilman?
K2.
9K2.
Please.
So this is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust regarding an allocation to Sky Dweller Aero Inc.
Yes.
So
it would still pass. It would be fine. I would just like to be on record saying no if I could. I would appreciate that.
So is that a motion to rescind that you're making?
Please.
Okay. All right, Francis, are we able to pull that up for him?
Yes, it may take a second.
So this is a motion by Councilman Cooper, or he'll make the motion here in a moment. Okay, he has made the motion. Is there a second? There is a second. This is to rescind the vote by which 9K2 passed. Cast your votes. That passes unanimously. Is there someone who would like to make a motion now to pass 9K2 again?
I just make that motion even if I'm not in favor of it.
Well, you can. It's not necessary, probably. Somebody else can make it for you. There you go. Motion and a second. It's nice of you to offer, though. Pat, cast your votes. And this time passes 7-2. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for your help with that. I appreciate you.
Okay, that brings us to item 11, City Manager Report. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, so we have Kathy O'Connor with the Alliance for Economic Development to give us an update on the Small Business Continuity Program.
Yes, good morning, Council. Just a brief update on the small business program. Just as a reminder, we'll go through all the different rounds of the program that we funded so far. Round one was funded with both an allocation from the Gulf Bond Fund program and from the CARES Act. We funded approximately 324 grants and forgivable loans, and 13 technical assistance contracts for approximately $6 million. In round two, this was fully funded by the CARES Act. Again, we received just about 600 applications. We were able to fund 252 of those. Payments have been processed for just about all of them at this point, totaling $14.8 million in funding. On the technical assistance part of the program, we're currently working with 40 applicants and expect to spend around $300,000 on those applications. Again, we match them with consulting companies, law firms, marketing groups to help them with any technical assistance they might need as a result of the pandemic. On the retrofit program, we're currently working with 59 applicants for about $700,000 in support for these businesses. These are reimbursements of up to $25,000 to provide either social distancing or other measures in their business to help them with deal with the impacts of the pandemic. And then finally, on the venue program that council approved just a few weeks ago, we received about I think about 16 applications. We've reviewed all 13 that were qualified. And based on the estimates, we believe that we'll be able to fund all 13 that applied. We had 5 applicants, so we got 18 applications. We had 5 that did not qualify. So we will have expended the entire $2 million allocation for the venue support program. And we'll be notifying those businesses probably later today, since we just voted on that. So that is the summary. We still have many applications that we were not able to fund. So, you know, if there's a desire to allocate any additional CARES Act money to this program, there are businesses whose applications we received and that are qualified that we weren't able to fund from the initial allocation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Kathy, first, thank you as always for the work on this effort. Secondly, what amount are we still looking at in terms of the need from folk out there? Do we have any kind of sense in terms of the ones we?
No, I don't know that we know the need. We know the total amount that we received in applications. So, and that totaled over 40 million. We've allocated, yeah. It's a really big number. And we funded 21.4 million of those. So I think we can be, you know, very, very pleased with the efforts that the council undertook to help small businesses. And, you know, we have in essence, $19 million that we weren't able to fund.
Well, I'm sorry, one more time, the total we were able to?
I think it's about 21.4 million if I did the math in my head really quick, correctly. So.
Again, thank you for your work on that, on this effort, and thanks for keeping us updated.
Not a problem. And I want to express my thanks to the city staff that have been working on this, Joanna McSpadden and all the other people on my team that have been a part of it. It's been an interesting undertaking for all of us.
All right, thank you, Kathy. The next item that we have is the fiscal year end budget report, and Doug Galler, our budget director, is here to provide that information for us.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this is an unaudited report of how we finished up the year, fiscal year 20. It shows a total revenue of $485 million versus expenses of $480 million in the general fund. So a difference of about $5.3 million. We had the budget amendment earlier in the meeting that was for PO rollover. So some of that $5.3 million will be used for that PO rollover, about $1.4 million of that will be to fund PO rollover. So in net, we're really adding about $4 million to our fund balance. And as we begin fiscal year 21, that puts us at $109.4 million as the general fund balance. That puts us at about 23.6%, just above our financial policies of 14 to 20%. So there's also information on the other funds. Obviously, the general funds of the most interest, but I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Mayor, I'd like to express my appreciation to the staff, all the departments for the work that they've done, in a difficult budget year to finish the way that we did. Really is a credit to them. I know they've been working on low staff, and we had trouble filling some positions leading up to the pandemic. And that once we put the hiring freeze in place, all the work that they did to try to protect our resources in a difficult year is really a tribute to a lot of great work by them. And then we've been holding a lot of vacancies open, and like we talked about previously, that we just released the hiring freeze to be able to start slowly filling some of our positions. We're definitely going to keep an eye on that. And also, as we go into this year, right now we're starting off the year ahead of what we'd expected. And so it's a good start to the year. So having our reserves above our policy level is a good time to have that in the event that we need to draw on those in this year. It'd be a first level that we'd go to if we ran into issues with revenues declining further. So we'll keep an eye on that and continue to communicate with the council. But I just wanted to express my appreciation of the council's leadership and the work of the staff to put us in this position. The only other item that we have on is our donations. We do a year-end summary of donation funds from the previous year, and it shows the donations that have come in, but also expenditures that have gone out from those various donation funds. So we just have a summary of that, and we can answer any questions if you have those.
Okay. Any comments or questions for the city manager?
Yeah, and I don't mean to sound, I don't know what this is going to sound like, but I can't ignore kind of an elephant in the room. My mother texted me, Craig, yesterday while I was grocery shopping, and she told me about your COVID test. And I just wanted to say you're on my mind, and I'm sending my thoughts to you and your family. So just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate that. I really do. And I've had some very kind folks reach out to me, but I really do feel well, doing well right now. And it's one of those things that, just that caution to everyone of being careful that you're wearing your mask, that you're being careful with the distancing, doing all that you can. I've tried to take measures and, still got the virus, and just want to make sure that we're keeping all of our employees safe, everyone in our community. And I appreciate the council's leadership in encouraging our community to continue with wearing masks and taking safety precautions to protect each other. But thanks for the kind words.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I'm sure those sentiments are shared by all of us, Craig. Thank you for your great job on all these financial issues. I hear other cities lament situations that seem far more dire than ours. So great job to you and your financial team managing us through this. Any other items on city manager reports, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. Francis, has anyone signed up to speak under citizens to be heard?
No, sir.
We have no one who signed up to speak. That means we do have one remaining item, which is our executive session previously approved. I believe everybody has an invitation for that. And so they just need to log off here, log back into the executive session, and then we'll come back here at the conclusion of that, although there is no vote to be taken.
Yeah, and please use the invitation I sent about 11 o'clock, just a few minutes ago. Should be at the top.
Okay. All right. We will now proceed into executive session. Thank you. All right. I see a quorum. That concludes our business. We have returned from executive session and we have no other items on the agenda other than item 13, which is adjournment, and we are adjourned. Thank you.